Well, it's time for the last part of this Fox X-Men universe.
I love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up! It's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror and he is no friend to me.
Hello everybody and welcome back to Pitch This here on the MrEliMac YouTube channel. I am your host, MrEliMac, and today it is time for me to finally present to you all the final phase of What If I Was in Charge of the Fox X-Men universe. And I did part 1, which was very much dedicated to the 2000s era. The second part, or phase 2, was very much dedicated to the 2010s, and this one is very much dedicated to the 2020s, which are really focused on 2020 and 2024, with 2024 being the ending or sort of the homage year since this year Deadpool and Wolverine came out. So that's very much that year, and I'm very much looking at this as the completion and the finish. There's only 2 movies that I'm going to be mentioning in this video, so I'm very much looking at this as I'm ending it here. I am not going to be doing any more after this because I want it to sort of be on par with that. So yeah, that's very much what's happening with this one, and I'm very much focusing on 2 movies to help complete a trilogy. But before I get into the idea and the pitch, please be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. That way you can be up to date with all the videos I have here on the channel. Also, hit the notification bell. That way you can be notified whenever a new video like this comes your way. So for the first movie I'm going to be talking about in this duology is the movie I would like to call Cyclops and Havoc. This is very much the second installment of the Cyclops trilogy. It's also the continuation from after what happened in Uncanny X-Men Dark Phoenix. This is continuing on that story with Cyclops and Havoc very much going on sort of a road trip type thing. They've both fully left the X-Men, Cyclops especially fully left the X-Men, and now we're sort of focusing on his journey of grief and such. And so for the movie, Cyclops and Havoc are the main characters, and it's also Havoc very much because early on in the Dark Phoenix movie, I had Havoc come in and go, hey, I got some information that I need to tell you, big bro. And in this movie, we're getting that information. What is discovered is that who their dad is and where their dad is. And Havoc has very much discovered that their dad is in the Shi'ar Empire. He is in outer space. And so this movie is very much about Havoc and Cyclops going back into the outer space, going back to the Shi'ar Empire, and very much it's a space adventure for Cyclops and Havoc. And when they discover their father, Corsair, and him with the Starjammers, it's sort of one of those, oh, I didn't expect to meet my sons in this sort of way, so hey sons, how you doing? And them very much dealing with going with the fact of, hey, you were our dad, why did you abandon us? And going into that sort of direction. But also we're dealing with the fact of, we get revealed that there is another Summers brother, which is Gabriel Summers, aka Vulcan. And in this film, he is very much the main antagonist of the film and trying to take over the Shi'ar Empire from Lilandra. Lilandra wouldn't really appear in this film because she was very much dealing with the aftermath of Dark Phoenix and staying with Xavier. So Vulcan is very much trying to take over the Shi'ar Empire, and he has Deathbird, Lilandra's sister, working beside him, and they've sort of taken over some of the Imperial Guard, such as Starbolt, Neutron, Hussar, and Warstar. They're very much the ones that are helping the bad guys. And with the Starjammers, the only person of the Imperial Guard that has decided to rebel against Deathbird is Gladiator. So Gladiator is working with the Starjammers, Cyclops, and Havoc to stop Vulcan and Deathbird. And it ultimately gets to the point where it's Havoc and Cyclops going up against their brother Vulcan, and there is a moment where they realize that they can get a little bit to Vulcan. It's like, hey, don't do this thing, don't do this evil thing that is happening, please don't do it. But ultimately Vulcan's like, look, I'm gonna do what I want because I'm in charge of this place. Everyone has abandoned me, I have powers beyond anyone's imagining. Which ultimately leads to Vulcan getting defeated, Deathbird would not die in the film. She would just get arrested, and the other members of the Imperial Guard who betrayed the Shi'ar Empire, they would also get arrested and put away as well. Lilandra would show up at the end of the film being like, oh hey, thanks for saving my empire, you know the X-Men really need you, and Cyclops being like, I'm still figuring stuff out. And very much it would have them, Havoc and Cyclops, go away with them basically saying, Dad, you can come back, and their dad being like, well, I have this thing in outer space, I can't leave my Starjammers. And so Havoc and Cyclops go back to Earth, but then in the post-credit scene, because I want to put a post-credit scene, Cyclops would be living in his own abandoned shack in the woods, and then suddenly he would see Jean Grey there. Jean would be revealed to be back, and it's like, oh, she's not dead. Cut to black. And then that would be Cyclops and Havoc. That's that movie. And there's not a lot of major moving parts in it. It's just very much, oh, we're dealing with Summer's backstory and Summer's family drama over here, and that's sort of what's happening. And that's that movie. And now we move on to the next movie, the 2024 movie, which I've called Cyclops Legacies, which deals with mainly Scott Summers and Jean Grey being together. They have a baby, and we slowly start to discover little bits of Jean that don't seem to be right. There are not a lot of things that she's remembering from the past. There are a lot of things that Scott's like, we did this thing. I don't know how you could forget. And Jean's like, oh, well, a lot of stuff happened when I turned into the Phoenix and all that. But then we'd get the reveal with Mr. Sinister being in this film of, oh, that's not actually Jean, that's Madeline Pryor. That is a clone that Mr. Sinister created to try to injure Scott Summers emotionally. The heart, Osborn. First we attack his heart. That's basically what Mr. Sinister is doing with this. And with Mr. Sinister going after Scott and Madeline even is realizing that she's been brainwashed by Sinister, but she's trying to fight off against it. And with this, we are having Havoc very much helping Scott try to get away from Mr. Sinister. And we also get Corsair, Christopher Summers, their dad, also coming in to be like, oh, hey, I've been hearing a lot of stuff happening, and I'm going to try to help you. But one of the things that they didn't realize is that their baby, Nathan Summers, has been infected with this disease. And with this, they are having to send him into the future. And the moment they send him into the future, that's when they get Cable to come in, and this is the introduction of Cable. And Cable is very much like, no, there's something that happens in the past that causes a bad thing in the future, and I'm trying to stop the thing in the past so that the thing in the future doesn't happen. And we get the reveal that the true main antagonist of the film is a character known as Strife, who is a clone of Cable from Mr. Sinister had been working on a clone of Nathan Summers as well, and that's when we get Strife. And then Strife has even come back and is like, no, I'm going to make sure this thing in the past does happen. And we also get the appearance of Hope Summers, who is a child of Cable, and she is someone that's very much just trying to help everything and help make sure that her dad, Cable, doesn't get into too much trouble. And we get the reveal that the thing from the past that is causing all this strife in the future, lack of a better term, is Bastion. I'm very much using the X-Men 97 plotline to do this story. And as the movie is progressing, Hope Summers starts to slowly realize something is different about Madeline Pryor. It's more than just she's a clone, there's something else. And we get the reveal that Madeline Pryor is not just a clone, she is in fact being a host of the Phoenix Force. The Phoenix Force did not disappear. The Phoenix was able to just find its way to the clone. And now it's not the Dark Phoenix. It's like, no, I have cleansed myself of the darkness, and now I'm in Madeline Pryor, but the strain of the Phoenix is too much for Madeline Pryor since she is just a clone, that Madeline does die in the film, and the Phoenix Force goes into Hope. And then Hope uses the Phoenix Force to help stop Bastion and Mr. Sinister, and ultimately it's the Summers family coming together with a reemerged and bringing her back because, trying to wrap this up really well, a reemerged Jean Grey who has been rebirthed, and she's come back, and she is someone that is like, I am helping. And so we get Cyclops, Jean, Havoc, Cable, Corsair, and Hope Summers taking out Strife, fully defeating the bad guy. And the reason why it's called Legacies is because of the legacy of the Summers and Grey family with Cable, with Hope, And even with Strife, like having that be a continuing thing of, oh, the legacy of these characters. And it would end with Jean and Scott and Havoc and Cable and Hope going to the X Mansion and basically being like, hey, we've discovered ourselves, we discovered a lot of things that have happened in life, and we're ready to come home. And it sort of ends on the Xavier Institute with more kids there as well. We get like visual cameos of other popular X-Men. Maybe we get a visual of Jubilee. We get a visual of just other characters that are popular in the X-Men universe. And that would be how I would end my Fox universe. And yeah, that is me pitching Phase 3, aka just the 2020s. And yeah, I didn't want to extend myself too much past what Fox has actually done, because I didn't want to try to create stories that I didn't think would be appropriate, or stories that I thought wouldn't be as strong, because I'm trying to go further than what Fox had done. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to keep it consistent with what Fox had done, but also create stories that I think could work. And I think ending this universe with a Cyclops movie, with a Cyclops trilogy, helps hammer in the home of this was an X-Men film cinematic universe. Like, this was an X-Men universe. And Cyclops being the epitome of being the X-Men in the comics, I felt like that was very appropriate for the story that I wanted to tell with the X-Men. I mean, we started with Cyclops at the very beginning, leading the X-Men, and we're ending with Cyclops going back to the X-Men after he had basically left. And I think that is a nice bookend of, we see him joining the X-Men in the beginning and we see him ending with the X-Men in the end. And I just thought that would be a neat way to do it. And yeah, that is what I would do with a Fox X-Men cinematic universe if I was in charge with it and I was given the constraints that Fox had. And yeah, I really thought I did a pretty good job, but I don't know. It's not up to me to decide what I did. It's up to you. What did you think about the trilogy, the three-parter that I had, Phase 1, Phase 2, and Phase 3? And what did you think about having sort of Cyclops be the main character of the X-Men universe instead of like Wolverine or Deadpool or someone like that? I very much wanted to have Cyclops be the main character of this universe. Though I love Wolverine, though Wolverine is one of my favorite characters, I very much wanted Cyclops to be the lead of this universe, because Cyclops was always proclaimed like, oh, he is the X-Man. Whenever you read the comics, he is the X-Man. And so I really wanted to focus on him as a character in this universe. I gave Wolverine his own trilogy, which is his own sort of spin-off universe over there. I gave Storm her own movie. I gave Cyclops his own trilogy, and I did a full. The first trilogy is mutants versus humans, or mutants versus mutants, or mainly just mutants versus humans. And then the second trilogy is just Dark Phoenix and the Phoenix Saga. And so what were your thoughts on the phases? Did you like them? Did you hate them? Were you indifferent to them? Whatever your thoughts, post them in the comments down below. Also, again, don't forget to hit the like button if you did like it, and also hit the subscribe button. That way you can be up to date with all the videos I have here on the channel. Also, hit the notification bell. That way you can be notified whenever a new video like this comes your way. But until next time, I've been Mr. Eli Mac. You've been the audience, and I hope you all remember to have a great rest of the day.